Hello and welcome to another episode of Curl Up with Cathy Bramley. And I am absolutely delighted to be sharing my treehouse with this particular author. She's been an idol of mine for absolutely ages. So here she is. I'm delighted to welcome Erica James. Erica has been writing since 1996. And here she is today. And we're going to be talking about her brand new book. Good morning, Erica.
Good morning to you. Lovely. And thank you so much for inviting me. And stop using words like idol. Oh, my goodness.
I remember I was talking to my daughter earlier, saying who I was talking to, and my nana actually, and my nana was Erica James, and I said I remembered really vividly going into WH Smith, really desperate for the next Erica James, and I'd ring my mum and say, I've got the new Erica James, and she'd be really excited, and then we'd pass it between each other. So yeah, it was always a big
sharing. Oh yes, we love all the sharing of books, don't we?
Well, it works both ways though, because she'll buy books and then so yes, I used to love it when people say, I used to love telling people I shared my books, but now when people say, I bought the book and passed it around 10 friends, just tell them all to buy it.
Yeah, that's right. Yes. And the other one is, yes, I discovered you in a charity bookshop, and actually I never mind that, because if that's where somebody finds me, I know my level, the charity bookshop, then it's lovely, because, and even if they're just having the books from the library, it's
libraries,
all about the books, and we're supporting the whole sort of network of the industry, really.
That's right. And it does, what goes around comes around, I think, as well. And if you can create a loyal reader, they're not going to wait until they come across you in a charity shop for the next one, are they?
Yes, that's usually, you've reeled them in with that first one,
Hopefully, that's the hope. And libraries, particularly, you mentioned there, I mean, that's a huge thing, isn't it, for authors? And sometimes people will apologize to me and say, I'm really sorry, but I get your books from the library. And I say, absolutely not.
No, absolutely no. Yeah, my love of reading really started in a library when I was sort of like 4 years of age. I've got a very distinct memory of kneeling on the dusty wooden floorboards in my library I probably would have been about 4, and just that joy of selecting a book and then taking it home and losing yourself in it. It's lovely. So absolutely. No, big supporter of the libraries.
Huge. And of course, what some people don't realize is we do actually earn money from books that are borrowed from libraries, which is a lovely treat. So
it is, isn't it? I remember the first time I ever received that. It's just such a lovely bonus, and it's still the same. You just obviously still got the tax to pay on it, but it's a bonus, isn't it?
So fantastic. So you mentioned that your library. Are you? Do you live now where you grew up? Have you always been in?
No. So I grew up on the south coast of England, a little place called Hayling Island. Next stop is the Isle of Wight.
Really?
It measures 4 by 5. The island, is a proper island with a bridge onto it. So that's where I grew up. But then got married very young, lived in Oxford for a year. Then lived in the north of England for the vast majority of my adult life, in Cheshire, Yorkshire, back to Cheshire, then a stint in Brussels, and then back to Cheshire. And then marriage was over by then, and then I chose to live in Suffolk. I always knew that once my sons left home, that I could live wherever I wanted to. I sort of committed to them with school and then university. And then once they had flown the nest, I thought, right, me time.
And what drew you to Suffolk particularly?
Actually, books, in as much as I went to see, I can't remember which book it was. I've done it a number of times, and you probably have as well. Been to Bungay, to Clay, to the printers. Yes. And I could just remember, I'd been to Suffolk before, but on this particular occasion, I was thinking, Suffolk's quite a nice county, isn't it? And then sort of I was at home and doing Right Move, watching Escape to the Country. And yes, the idea took hold, and I did my research, and I knew a couple of people already living in Suffolk. And funnily enough, my ex-boss from years ago, pre-children, and so I ended up in Suffolk. Yes, I like to sort of think outside of the box occasionally. Just think, oh, life needs to be shaken up a little bit.
So where you are in Suffolk, are you near the coast at all?
No, mid Suffolk.
Okay.
Yeah,
Right.
no, because I decided, as tempting as it was to go over onto the coast, then that much further away from London. And at the time, my eldest son announced, guess what, you're going to be a grandmother. And they were living in London. So I thought, okay, I need to be within a convenient, didn't want to be on the doorstep, but I wanted to be a convenient distance of that. But I also wanted, because I go to Italy a lot, I wanted to be near an airport as well. So Stansted fitted the bill for that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and London. Of course, now my eldest son and his family, they live in Seattle. So, but part of my choice for living in Suffolk, I wanted to live somewhere that I really wanted to live, not just to be nearer my eldest son. My other son lives in Tokyo. So when I say they have flown the nest,
they really have flown, haven't they?
Yeah,
opposite directions.
So
have you been out to Tokyo?
With the whole sort of thing of people saying, oh, we can't see our families. Well, I've been sort of living that life for a while now where I don't get to see my sons, but FaceTime, we do that all the time. So that isn't something that is a new sort of shock to the system for me.
So your new book, let's talk about that. Can you? I will show the picture so everyone can see it.
Just go.
Yes, you can.
Here's one I made earlier.
Yeah, Erica James, Letters from the Past. So tell us a little bit about that book, Erica.
Right. Now, first, I should say it is a standalone novel, but it is also a sequel to Coming Home to Island House, which I also have. Just turn around. So go back this way to the camera, Coming Home to Island House. So this is a sequel to it. I've moved the story along by 20 years. So with Coming Home to Island House, we were during the Second World War. I've moved it on to 1962. But we have parts of the book that go back to the wartime years. And when I started Coming Home to Island House, mentally, I thought, I really want to write a sequel to it. I want to create a family whose story I can tell over a good number of years. But when I got all the way to the end of Coming Home to Island House, I did not have an idea to do a sequel at all. There was just nothing. The tank had run dry. And so I wrote Swallowtail Summer, a contemporary novel set on the Norfolk Broads. And then whilst I was writing that, the son who lives in Seattle with his family, they invited me to go there. And it was January, going into February, pouring with rain every day. Seattle does get a lot of rain in the winter. So then we flew down for some winter sunshine to Palm Springs. And it was whilst we were there that I got an idea for a sequel. Because I suddenly pictured Romilly, who was one of the main characters from the first book. I pictured her older. So I couldn't say exactly at that point how much older, but I pictured her older, and that one of her books that she had been writing was going to be made into a film.
Wow.
And that was why she'd gone to Hollywood, and then she was in Palm Springs where she was going to meet a screenwriter. So I thought, well, okay, so that's Romilly's story going on there. And I thought, well, what about the rest of the family? And then all the other people from Melstead St. Mary who we met in the first book. And I got this, I absolutely cannot remember where the idea came from, but I just suddenly thought, poison pen letters. Somebody in the village is sending out poison pen letters. And then it sort of started to grow. By the
time a ring of Miss Marple about it, hasn't it? That poison pen letters.
Actually, you're right. And I am a big fan. So maybe subconsciously that had sort of seeped through. And also maybe where I live now. I live in it's a picturesque Suffolk village. I'm in a thatched cottage overlooking the village green. So it is I am channeling Miss Marple.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds amazing.
Sorry.
No, that sounds fantastic. So you were able to revisit the story, but you added 20 years onto all their ages.
Yes. So the children that were born or had already been born in the first book were now 20 years on as well. So they had their own lives and stories to develop. And there were definitely characters from the first book who I just wanted to be with again. Evelyn was one of those characters. Every time I wrote any dialogue for her in the first book, I kept thinking, there's more to you than this. And happily I was able to do that with her storyline in the new one. Yeah.
So will we be seeing them again in 1982, I wonder?
I no idea. The right idea has to come along. I am writing a new book, but it's not them. No.
It is funny though, because I remember somebody asking me if I would do a sequel to The Lemon Tree Cafe, and I just had nothing. Literally, as you say, absolutely nothing. I was like, well, I would, but I just haven't got any ideas. And then a reader said, what about doing something about the child? It was a childminder, really, really tiny character. So I'd like to know more about the childminder. And then it just sparked something. And the next minute I'd got a whole novel mapped out.
Oh, and don't you just, that is one of the best feelings, isn't it? When those ideas just seem to drop into your lap out of the ether. There's nothing that comes close to that.
I mean, you still have to write it.
The easy bit is when those ideas land on your lap, and then it's the hard graft. And it's and I don't know how you write, Cathy, but I don't start out with a synopsis. I make it up as I go along. So it's real sort of by the seat of my pants for that first
I wish, and have you always written like that?
Yes, every single book has been written that way, So I can't change. I mean, I just could not possibly change.
No, well, I like a plan. And I've got the seed of an idea now for my next one. But I just don't feel confident enough to just start without knowing where it's going. So I like to have think who my main characters are, not just the love interest pair, but who some of the others are, what it's actually about, and then I can go. But so I'm still in that, I've just got random ideas,
just hugging it close to you as well. But do you share your ideas with anyone at this stage where you are? Do you share that with anyone?
If I've got something tangible, sometimes it's a feeling about a book. Like I know what it's going to feel like. And I can't share that, but I have got like a nugget of something that I have shared with the people that I'm in lockdown with.
Yes.
Because sometimes it helps just to say something out loud.
It's absolutely true, that, because if you turn it over in your head too many times, it begins to sound daft and that it couldn't possibly work. And then you say it out loud. And actually my sons, I was always able to do that with them. And that is perhaps one thing I miss with them not being on hand, although I still would if we were having a conversation. And I often ask them for advice about things. But yes, that being able to say the words out loud really makes a difference. But I would never share with my agent or or an editor in case, because it's too easy for someone to say something negative. I'm just snuff the candle out straight away. I think my sons learnt from an early age never to do that, just to agree with their mother.
Well, I used to, if we were going on a long family journey somewhere, we'd shut the door, start off, and I'd say, right, let me tell you about my new book. And then they'd be forced to listen for the next however long. And the thing is, as I was saying what was effectively a very long synopsis, it would bring up like plot holes in it for me, like, well, why would that happen? And something needs to. So I'd be saying it and I'd go, anyway. And then after that, and it would make me think, oh, there's a problem there. So I do quite like doing that. So I might have to shut them in a room with me. And,
It doesn't matter if lockdown has been lifted. You just keep the doors locked.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're going nowhere until this book has been written.
So obviously, not when you're not writing. I follow you on Twitter, and not only are you a very, very talented creative writer, but you're also creative in a lot of ways, aren't you? Because I saw your jumper that you've just created.
Yes,
a beautiful jumper.
Oh, well, that was just a really easy. You can almost do that with your eyes closed.
No, you can't, Erica. I'm sorry, you can't.
I mean, and this is a little number I made myself last year.
Lovely.
Yes. Yeah. No, it's I can't sit and watch the television without something in my hands. It is an addiction. You talk to anyone who knits a lot, it becomes an addiction.
But of course,
I think it's sorry, carry on.
I was going to say, but your other main love is your garden, isn't it?
Yes, I was going to say those two things. It's being creative in different ways, but gardening is also, it's about control. I am a control freak. Hey, I live on my own. I have every right to be a control freak. I can control everything just so. Yeah. And gardening is an extension of that, really. Especially at the moment. Can't control what's going on in the world, but I can control my own little environment. Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, so I mean, you grow vegetables as well as flowers, don't you? I mean, you do the whole shebang.
Yeah, well, not as sort of professionally as a proper gardeners do. I always say that I'm a beginner with all of these things, because actually to say that you've learned how to garden, or you learned how to, and it's just not true. You're always learning. It's the same with writing, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Just because you have one book published and it sells doesn't mean it's going to just sort of follow on, success after success. It true of all things. You've just got to keep working at it. Also, I think it helps to be slightly neurotic. The fear of losing it all. That's quite a strong driving force for me.
So, what does today hold for you after our chat? Then, what's on the agenda for
I
Erica
shall put
James?
the kettle on, have a cup of tea, and then get back to today's chapter, which I have no idea. No idea. Each morning, I sort of wake up thinking, right, what's today's chapter? Sometimes it will come to me, I'll know. But yeah, so first draft is always like this for me. It's finding my way through the storyline. What about you? What are you?
I've got something to write for a magazine. I'm going to do that. And I'm going to go back to my little nugget of an idea and work on that for the rest of the day.
Lovely. Good. And will you be doing that in your treehouse?
No, because it's just started to absolutely pelt down with rain.
Oh.
I was wondering if you could hear it, actually. It's really loud because it's just a wooden roof.
Oh, no.
But no, so I shall leg it back to the house, probably put the kettle on as well, like you. And sort out the agenda for the rest of the day.
Oh, well.
Well, listen, it's been absolutely lovely to talk to you. Thanks for taking this time out. And I look forward to seeing you in real life very soon.
Yes, we must do that. Okay, well, you take care. And thank you for inviting me.
Oh, thank you. You're very welcome. Thanks for joining me. Bye-bye. Oh, wasn't that lovely? Really enjoyed talking to Erica James. And it was absolutely amazing. And I'm sure that you'll be rushing to Amazon or your nearest bookshop to order her new book, Letters from the Past. Thanks so much for joining me, and I'll talk to you soon. Goodbye.